Hi everyone, and welcome you back to my YouTube channel. If you are here for the first time, my name is Arship and I'm a software developer, and in my free time I try my best to actually help people in their coding journey. And with that same spirit, today I'll be solving a question paper of last year 2025. To be precise, this module is called Technical Programming from the Central University of Technology, and I'm trying actually to help some third year students that are doing they're preparing for their main test. Basically what I'm doing today, I usually don't do this type of content. You can actually check some of my previous videos to see what I actually have here. If along the way you feel like you do love this type of content, or you love what I've done before, do not forget to subscribe to not miss any of my upcoming videos. So without further ado, we're gonna jump into the tutorial and I will see you right after. So let's start. So the test says, this is a summary. For this test, you will develop a student information management app using Flutter. The app will consist of two main screens. The input screen, the student will enter their details, student number, full name, email, and course using simple text fields. As they type, the data will be updated in real time thanks to the provider. So meaning we're gonna also have to use the provider for the state management. And then they say a submit button will navigate to the second screen. And then on the details screen here, all entered information will be displayed clearly in text format with a back button that will allow users to return to the input screen to make changes if needed. It's a key technical requirement. State management. Okay, for the state management, we're gonna use provider with change notifier to track and update student data instantly. And then we're gonna do also navigation. We're gonna implement the route manager to handle the screen transition. Okay, the UI, the design clean interfaces with text field input, text displays, and elevated actions spaced properly using sized box. Okay, this is pretty basic and straightforward. And then so basically they will give you a screen like this, a screenshot to guide you, so it won't be you starting everything from scratch. So for the first question, they say we're gonna create the model class. So here they say create a student model class with the following requirements. You have the properties for the student number, name, surname, email, and course. All should be string type, and then all required named constructor. So let's start with that. I'm gonna open my VS Code. So here I will do this. Okay, I hope everybody can see. Let me check again. Okay, so we got this. This is the default Flutter app. So what we are going to do is we will start first by creating the model. So the way it's supposed to be, you create a folder that we're gonna call models, and then in here you're gonna create your, we will say, student model dot. This is what's gonna hold our models. And then the question says okay, there we go. So we are going to create a class called student. I hope everybody knows how to do this. And then now we're gonna have to populate with the properties. So we have the student number, name, surname, email, and course, and all of them have to be of type string. So we're gonna have a string student studs and O, and then we have the name, we have the surname, and then we got the email, and we have the course. But I have to fix something here. In Flutter, when you name your variables, they must have small characters, not capital characters. So after that, obviously for it to work, there are certain elements that you're gonna have to populate as well. So for example, you need the constructor, because actually that's what's required for you. So we're gonna have a constructor. In our case here we have student, or let me put some commands here to help people as well understand what's going on. These are the properties, and after that we have our constructor. So for the constructor, it's actually just a normal method, but in there we put our curly braces, and then now we're gonna fill it in with these properties that we just populated now. Okay, so for example, actually we can just do this. Okay, no, I was hoping that it was gonna suggest it was just gonna complete it for us, but it's not doing it. So we're gonna have to type required. The reason why we use the keyword required is to help us every time we create a model, then we know for a fact that this keyword is required. So you can't create a model without a student number, a name, a surname, and so on and so forth. So we have required, we have this. You can just select here to save time. Okay, and then next thing we have required again. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm just gonna copy this, just to save time. So now what do we need? We have the name, and then we have the surname, we have the email first. Okay, but usually the order doesn't really matter as long as you have all your properties filled in there. That's enough. And also the copy with method, that's gonna help you at the later stage. So it's important for you to already have it here so that you don't have to come back or have problems later on when you're trying to populate other properties. So we're gonna do the copy with. This is how you do it. You write student model. Okay, I think let's do this. I just want us to be able to remember easily what we do. Okay, it's much more easier like this, so we know for a fact this is a model. So we have student model, and our student model has the method. We give it the method copy with, and this copy with as well, you actually populate it as well, almost similar to a constructor. But what we're gonna do, let's just copy this, okay, to save time, because those are the same properties. But the difference here now is that we're gonna put a question mark. The question mark means every time we will use this copy with, sorry, I'm trying to finish this first. So every time we use the copy with, this is a suggestion. Basically, it's no, okay, not a suggestion. It's not a must for you to have these properties. Do you understand? I will show you. I will explain to you deeper when we start. When we start doing the view model. So that means every time you will use this, it's not a must for you to have all these properties. Compared to this one here, we don't have a question mark. That means if you use the constructor, it's a must for you to have these property being already populated. But if you use copy with, it's not a must. Yeah. So you will find it in, I think, chapter 8. What? Let's go. I'm getting distracted now. Yeah, so we have this. So we must return. It has to return for us now. We'll see that. I need this. You see, it's already suggesting for you what's needed to be populated here. You have the student number. In our case, we will just say we'll rather do this. We'll put these 2 question marks. Sorry. Let's go. 2 question marks, and then we do this. So it's basically a constructor as well. But now we have student number. I will explain in a bit what it means. Let me just clean up this here. It's good to also have a very clean code so that you can actually understand what's going on there. So when we put these 2 question mark, it means if we haven't provided any value for this student number, then it has to take this value by default. Okay, so we're gonna do the same for the other properties as well. That means if we haven't provided the name, by default it will have student number here. Oh yeah. I think this should be, yeah. Okay, now our code is clean. It's well formatted. So now we can go to the next. So here we are for the question 2. It says create a student view model class. So we're gonna have the student view model class. It has to extend to change notifier. We have to instantiate the student constructor, provide individual getter methods for each property, and yeah, don't want to read, otherwise it's gonna take too long. So we go, the way we create our view model is that we also create a folder called view models, and then in there we're gonna create a file that's going to have the same name. We're gonna call it student. You can say student view model dot, and then once you are here, they said the student view model has to extend change notifier. So what's gonna happen here is we're gonna create a class. The class is called student view model, but student view model has to extend. So when they say extends, that simply means they are using the concept of inheritance. So it will inherit from change notifier. Okay, it will it extends change notifier, and then now we have to populate it as well. Instantiate student constructor. So what we have to do is we're gonna have to create a student. Okay, so we're gonna call it through the student model, and then the student model has a private property that we're gonna call we can call students, and then student we have to instantiate it now. So basically we are just giving values to the model. So this is what I was telling you. This is the constructor. So if you use the constructor, it's a must for you to have those fields: the name, the student number, the surname, the email, and the course. Otherwise it's just gonna give you error. For example, here I think we're gonna have to import first, right? So once we have done, we see it's fine here, there is no error anymore. But here we still have an error because the constructor, you see, that's what it's telling you: a value can't be assigned to a variable. But basically what it is telling you is you have to populate with, let me see if it won't suggest. I usually use Android Studio. Oh, no. I did a mistake there. Student model. You see, it's telling you the name parameter student number is required, because here back in the model we used the keyword required. Okay, that means every time you use the constructor, it has to, you need to populate. Okay, we have actually the suggestion. So now this is how we populate our constructor. We give it student number, the name, the surname, the email, the course. I'm just trying to format it properly so that we can see what is happening there. We have to close it there. All right. There we go. So because it says it should be final, if you do the final as it's suggesting, the error is going to leave, but that just means later on you won't be able to modify these properties. So we don't need to make it final for now. So these blue lines just means it's suggesting you something to do, but it doesn't know exactly yet what we're gonna do. So now we have to populate with getter methods. Okay, because this is how you use your view model. So you're gonna have, because remember this student is private, so that means it can only work in this class here, in this context. So once you go out, you can't access this specific context because he's the one actually holding this information, like this data. So what we're gonna do is we start with the string. So we're gonna get the student number. Okay, we say student number. This is an our function, and then this our function will return a student dot the student number. Okay, and then we close it. Well, this lines just annoys me. Let me just put it final. But now it's not even working anymore. Sorry, it's here. Okay, because those lines just annoy me, but I just need to remember to remove it later. So we do string we want to get the name. Okay, so we do the arrow function. The arrow function will return a student dot name. We close it. We say string get, we want to get the surname. So this is actually a method that you are creating to get each property, and then we're gonna return a student dot, we are on the surname. We close. Let me just copy this quickly. In fact, I can just copy this whole thing. And then just change here. We change it to email. Change it to email too. And then we change this one to course. So we have implemented the getter method. What else we have? Okay, we did that. And then so we need to create method to update each property. Okay, so here, let me just comment here. These are getter methods. They will help you to get informations here. You will see how we're gonna use them. Let me just separate, and then now we have to create method to update each property. So we will start, for example, to update the name. We're gonna create a void method. All it does is it updates student number. Okay, you open a parenthesis, and it needs an argument. Our argument is going to be a string, and then the string is going to the variable is going to be value. You can use anything that you want, but as long as it helps you to remember and it makes sense to you and to other people that will be reading the code. So now inside here, we're gonna instantiate a new student. Okay, so this new student, now you see we're gonna use the copy with. We say new student dot copy with. All right, so now remember, if we go back to our model, we have the copy with. So that means, okay, the easy word is when we put the question mark, that means we can have the student number can be null. Okay, the name can be null, the surname can be null, anything can be null. Here you saw with the other constructor we used, we couldn't actually proceed until we had to populate the student number. Why? Because this is required, and this cannot be null, cannot give you a null value. So those are technical stuff that you need to understand when you are working with programming in general. So in our case here, student number can be null. That's why. So basically it's helping us to have individual methods to access also individual properties. So we are here. So now in this context, this method does only one thing. It's only it updates only the student number. That means with this student, I just want to update the student number. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is inside the copy with, actually let me delete this line. Okay, so inside the copy with method, I will say I just want the student number. So now the student number will have the new value. Okay, this value, this input, this is what's gonna replace the new student number. Because also remember, initially the student number is not also null because it has a value. The value is just an empty string, and then now we replace it with this. we got an error here. What does it say? Okay, you see now, remember I used the final keyword. So now the compiler is already complaining, saying student can't be used as a setter because it's final. So when you say final, that means you can't modify this. So you can only use these values here. So that means I'm gonna have to delete this. Okay, so I only added because I was just annoyed with those blue colors all over. So there we go. So far we haven't actually even tested the app, but we will test it in a bit. We'll test it in a bit. So let's continue. So this is our method to update the student number. But now also you must remember that we are using MVVM and we are also using provider. So this method, every time they change the name, they have to actually update as well on the, how do you call this, on the view. So I don't know if I should put it now because I think it might not really make sense right now to some people. So we're gonna leave it here, but just know we're gonna have to add the comment here to do. This is just a reminder. To myself. So this is to finalize the state. So this is also a tip that you can use every time you put to do. It's gonna also reflect here, and by the time you are done, you can always go and check all the to-dos that you have, and it's gonna guide you. And yeah, so let's create now a method to update the name. So I'm just gonna copy this as well, okay, but I'm gonna say update update name. Here we're gonna change it to name value because it's literally the same thing. And there we go. So we're gonna create another method. This time we are going to update the surname. So this time we're gonna update the surname, and yeah, we changed there to, is it name or surname? My bad. Yeah, it's surname. So we're gonna update it to surname. We create another method. So this one here has to update the email. Update email, and here we're gonna replace it with email, and the course now. Now we are done. So now we have populated our view model. So the way you must understand this is in your model class, you don't put any logic, any method to do something. Here it's all about constructing or building the model. That's why they call it a model. So basically everything that you're gonna build from now on has these properties as a blueprint. And then when you get inside the view model, that's where you put now your methods to make now the app smart. So the app now can do certain things. Can, for example, in our situation here, we can update a student number, okay? We can update a name, we can update the surname. So basically now this is where we do things, but it can only work together with the student model. That's why we had to instantiate one student model here, and now we're gonna manipulate it from inside here. So this is just a small explanation. Okay, but they say update the values and call notify listeners. I wanted to skip it, that's why I put all these to-dos. So the way they work is, if I click here, for example, you see it takes me there where I'm supposed to do something. That's why they call them to-dos. So let's start with the first one here. We're gonna add notify listener. I wanted to skip it, but I guess we're gonna have to just do it. I wanted to skip it for now so that we can do it together with the provider, but I think we just gonna do it now. I'm just gonna copy this to be fast. This one as well. So now we have notify listeners. So what's gonna happen here is every time you call this method, it will do this. It will update the student number, but it will notify now the listener. In our case here, the listener is the consumer, so it's going to notify which consumer has to change. So we're gonna get there as well in a bit. So once we are done with this, now we have to go to the third part. So the third part is all about creating now the route manager. So here they also gave us a guide. We're gonna have to create a route manager class. So again, we go inside our lib, which is actually library. It stands for library in short. So we're gonna create a file. So I think on the screenshot she gave, you gonna name it as well route, but that's also the standard way to do it. So you say route, and then inside the route we're gonna create a couple of not a couple, but just one file for now, because the app is very small. It's pretty much a basic app. So inside the route we're gonna create a file called route manager, route manager dot okay, and once we open it, we're gonna create a class, and then this class has to be also called route manager. And then in there, so you can always refer to documentation and some other even website, some certain website explain this very well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna first create a static variable, okay, because what they say is define class, okay, create a route manager class that defines these named constants. I'm looking at the paper. So we're gonna have an input screen. Let me just read it together with you. So okay, let me just go to my files quickly. There we go. So we have this part. So we're gonna have an input screen, we're gonna have the details screen, we're gonna also implement generate route method with material page route, proper builder method for input screen and details screen. We have to handle unknown routes by throwing an exception. Okay, that's quite tricky now, but let's go first bit by bit. So we have a static, we make it constant because we're not gonna change it later on. It's gonna stay pretty much like that. So I will explain other keywords just now. I just need to type this quickly. We have our input screen, okay. So our input screen, because it's going to be the initial screen, by default we are gonna give it this value, okay. So what's gonna happen here is when you say static just means you can access this variable anywhere in the app. That's why they say static. So you have static, you have private, you have public. So each one of them does a specific job, but in our case here we have static to share it throughout the namespace. And then we create now the detail screen, detail screen. So our detail screen's value is going to be details, and we close that. Again, these are properties, and then now we have to create the methods to generate the route. Okay, so what we do is, it's going also to be a static because it has to be accessed throughout the app. So we have static const because it won't change. We're gonna have that same value throughout the what am I doing? Sorry, I'm repeating again myself. It's static route. We put our angle bracket, and then we say dynamic, and then now we create our methods, generate route. You can name it anything that you want, but as long as you can remember, so it's much more easier. That's one principle of software engineering, SOE. So basically, when you name your method, you must name it to something that's meaningful to what it does. So we also have something here. We have the settings of type. Settings. I will explain all of this in a bit. I just need to type them quickly. Settings. And then I will explain now. So this keyword here, for example, this type already exists in Flutter. You just have to import the library. These are built-in classes. Our method now is giving an error because it has to return. This is not a void. If it was a void, it was going to be fine. If let's say I say void, it was going to be fine. But now we are not returning a void. We are in fact returning this type. So it's gonna be of type route, which is also I think this is the type, which is dynamic. To me it looks more of like when we work with generics and all of that. So usually you put inside here the type, but to me it looks like it's this whole thing. Now it's gonna return a dynamic route. So now let's go. So inside there we're gonna have a switch. So the switch is going to help us to now navigate from one screen to another depending on the use case. So for example, now in our switch we have to do settings.name. We do settings.names. My bad, we have setting there. There we go. So now we have the first case. If we have this, let me just copy and paste. So if you have input screen, so now remember what we could have done here is we could have just copied this value and put it here. Sorry. So we could have just done this case and then we put the string here, which is still fine, but now we are trying to actually replace them with variables so that it makes much more sense. So now I know, instead of just having this value, now I know exactly what this value is being called. So basically this is my first screen, which is the input screen. And so now the input screen has to return the material page route, because now we are talking about routes. So the material page route, it has a builder. The builder here is going to be a method. Okay, we put an underscore, and this method is going to return the input screen. So you will see it's gonna give us an error because we haven't created this screen yet. Oh, did we? I don't think so. Not yet. Yeah, now we haven't done it yet. So for it to work, like right now, you see it says okay, this first error is because we haven't returned anything properly yet. You see, we have to return as well the default. I won't do it now, but for us to kill first this error, we're gonna have to create our screen. So what will happen here is, inside our library again, we're gonna create a folder for the views. So you can call it views, you can call it screens, but views is more of a standard way to do it. So in there, we're gonna create a method. No, not a method. I think I'm getting tired now. So in there, we're gonna create our input screen. We're gonna call it input screen dot, and so this is where we're gonna create our view. Okay, so for now we're just gonna do something simple so that we get rid of the error. So it has to be we're gonna create a class. The class is called input screen, but now remember, an input screen has to be a stateless widget, because here we are already managing the state by using the provider, so we don't need to call a stateful widget anymore. So all I can do is, here the shortcut is STL for stateless, and then we're gonna call it input screen, and input screen will return, let's leave it with a placeholder. You will see why. This is just gonna help us to get rid of the first error. So for example, here now we're gonna have to import it. I think I wrote it wrong, so I'm gonna have to make sure. I will come here. Okay, here's the error. I'm gonna have to change this one too. So now I can come back to my route and try to import it. There we go. And yeah, there we go. We have our input. So now we have to go for the second case. Okay, so in case we have the detail screen as the value, again, as I said, you could replace this value by this string here, the details, but now it's much more professional and it looks much more clean, because you don't have to guess what value that we have given here, but with the name it's much more easier to know what you are working with. So this one here as well is going to return for us a material page route. So these are the keywords that you have to remember for now, you know, because these are built-in methods. You don't build them yourself, so you call them to do a certain or a specific work for you. Or what you can just do is copy and paste just the entire return statement. You paste it here. You're just gonna change the details screen. There is multiple ways to do it, because I saw at some point the lecturer spoke about you know, passing methods, or I mean passing arguments to other classes. So you can do it already by creating the class, but this is just one way of solving this issue. The most important thing is just being able to solve this, you know. So now we don't have this class. We going to the views. Okay, we create a new file, and the file we call it, going to call it detail screen. Is it detail or details? I think just detail screen to make it simple. Dot. And in here we're gonna create a stateless class again. A stateless class that we're going to call detail screen. This is better. We're also gonna keep a placeholder, and then when I'm back here I have to replace this because I made a mistake. Now I have to import the library. Then we got that. So now we have to close this case. We have to close these cases with a default, and I will explain what's gonna happen here as well in a bit. So now remember, she said we need to handle a known route by throwing an exception. So meaning if a user or someone try to access screens that are beyond our scope, in our case the scope only has input screen and detail screen. So if we get something that has a different value than whatever we have here, so that means it has to throw an error, or it has to tell us that there is an error. So basically if I'm looking for an input screen, it has to return for me this class. If I'm looking for a detail screen, it has to build for me this detail screen. If it's something that's not inside or that doesn't belong to this scope, then it has to return a default. So the default, we will say it has to throw. These are built-in keywords that you're gonna also have to remember. We're gonna throw an exception. So this exception helps you to not crash your app entirely. So what's gonna happen is if someone goes beyond the scope, instead of the app to crash, it's just going to stay there. Still works. It still works, but it's telling you that, okay, look at this. This is what's happening now. Then you have options to, to either continue or do whatever. My mind is frozen right now. Yeah, there we go. So now we have the initial error we had here gone, because now we are returning properly the last statement. What's going on here? It's expecting where? Oh, there we go. It's here. And then let's try to format this. There we go. Now it's clean. It's better. So now we are done with the switch. We have to go to the question 4. That's where things get tricky and trickier. So what does it say? Okay, let's open it quickly. It's going to be somewhere here. Actually, we had it all this time. So now the question 4 says create an input screen that's allow. My throat is dry. Okay, let's get back to this. So we create now our input screen. So they say create an input screen that allows a student to enter their details. Components, you have an app bar with the title, enter student details. You use text field for all student properties with descriptive labels above, and appropriate controllers and disposal measures. Right, and then say features a submit button that navigates to detail screen using route manager. Okay, What's gonna happen here is I will modify it a little bit to make it work, because I actually don't remember how to do the how do you call it, controllers. I think I can if I check again documentation, but I didn't really have much time to do that. So I will show you a method that I use that is also quite faster and very simple to do. So let's start by creating first these few elements, these few components. So we have to go to the input screen. So here we're gonna return a scaffold, and then our scaffold has an up bar, and then this up bar, they said it has a title, and then this title will take a text widget, and then the text widget is going to be what? Enter student details. Enter student details. Okay, but actually we should actually run it, otherwise we don't even see what we are building. So what we will do here is, so I also had to modify the main by including the change notifier provider, because on the test I think they will provide for you already this type of code, and then you're just gonna maybe have to complete the few things that are missing. So in our case we just had to complete this. So for now the first screen that we have is this, but I didn't put the theme color, that's why you see everything is just plain. There is no color, there is nothing. But on the test, if you see all the papers, you will see the last paper has the they've provided the theme color and all of that, so you won't really have to struggle for that. So for now what we can do is maybe to just give it a background color, because we want it to look like what the lecturer is given. How do you do colors again? Colors, and then we take blue. Okay, but on the paper the text is white. So what you're gonna do is style, and then you say text style. We will say color. We will say colors dot. We'll say white. But all of this stuff will be already provided. So for us, we're just doing it because we need it. And also I see on her up bar she has an icon. You can add a leading to have the icon to just go back to manually create it. So you're gonna create a leading, put an icon inside the icon, then you put your back icon. So I think we don't need that for now. Those are like basic stuff. We're just trying to save time. So after that, now we're gonna have let me format it, because it's nice to work with a clean code. Yeah, our up bar is ending there. So now we have the body. So with the body we're gonna create we can have a column, and then this takes children, and then these children, for these children we're gonna have the text fields. Okay, so we're gonna have text field, but if we want to style it properly so that we don't have really messy stuff, we can wrap this widget inside a padding, and then our padding we can give it the edge. We say edge inset all, age insert.all is here. So we're gonna give it 16 because it's a double. It doesn't really matter, but it's just nice to do because obviously the double is recommended. So inside there we're gonna have a text field. Already we have our text field showing up there, and then I will really do the basic styling because I'm also quite tired. I don't want to do this for too long. We need in our text field has a lot of property. So now we're gonna have the label text. Okay, let me do this is what I do to remember. So you can add your controllers here if you want to use the controller way, but as I said, I'm gonna show you a pretty much a very straightforward. So let's go inside decoration. So the decoration, we're gonna have the input decoration. We can actually add const so that it doesn't have to, we don't ask too much to our CPU. We do const, and then inside there we can do now the label. So we can do label text. Okay, so our label text will take a string. So we will say what? That's the student number. Student number. Let's save. There we go. So I'm not gonna try to put it in the center. You can try and find out yourself. I'm just trying to have the necessary stuff, plus also the colors. They are blue, so you're gonna have to make them blue. For now we just keep them black because all we want is to have the proper result. So to make our work easy, what we can do is I will just copy this text field, but before I copy, let me actually complete it. So there are a few things that we have to do. The first one is that we have to invoke our view model, because it's from the view model that we will start accessing certain variables. So we're gonna have we have a final view model. That's why we use the keyword VM. It can be anything. You can call it student, but it's much more better to know that this is our view model. Then we call now the provider. Okay, so we call provider, we do the provider dot of we put the type. Always remember, we put the type in here, but the type is going to be a student view model, and then the student view model is going to have these arguments. The first one is the context, the second one is listening. So this is going to be a boolean. We say false. So the provider doesn't exist in this current context. You can even see when you go to problems, it says undefined. So meaning we have to import it because obviously we do not create that. So now we have that, and then I'm getting this. Let me try to do this just to comment it out quick. Okay, we'll see that later. Yeah, we'll see it later. So I deleted my app from here, and then I just called it straight here from the material app, which I don't advise you to do. I just did it because we needed to save time. I I just hope you won't run into the same type of problem. Okay, so now we have first invoked our view model inside here along with the provider. So we are telling the provider that I want to use the student view model to perform certain capabilities of the app. So now we continue. Where did we stop? So we were here. So now we have this method. So now yeah, after the decoration we have this method called onChanged inside the text field. So onChanged takes a value. So we have this here. It takes a value. You can do a whole what's it? You can do an arrow an arrow methods, or you can just, in our case, we already have our view model, right? So the view model is going to return. We're going now to use the method to update. For now we are updating the student number. You see, you already have these properties here. So we invoke this method, right? So basically every time someone will type something there, the onChange method is going to perform this. Basically it's going to perform this method from the view model, and it will take the value and it will change the value. So you don't need the controller anymore at this point. Okay, and then now we're gonna do the same thing for all the others. So we're just going to copy, paste, and then we change it to name. And then here we're going to update the name, and then we do the same thing here. We're going to update the surname. Surname. So copy that. We copy again the, after the surname we have the email. The email, and then we have the email as well. No, we have update email. All right, and after we have updated the email, we also need update calls. There we go. So we have our properties here. So if you type, okay, it's a bit slow, but we can just try things out here. So after this we need to add a button. Okay, so right after here we will add we can add an elevated button, and then an elevated button comes as well with this method. So on pressed we can replace it by this empty method, and then the text, is going to be, the child is going to be a text widget, and then this text widget has the keyword submit. So obviously we need to style it a little bit. From here you can say we need a sized box. The size box with a height of, let's just put 10, and then we close the statement. Rather put the comma, Okay, there we go. And you can also change the color and all of that. I think you can do it on your own. These are basic stuff. You have to know how to change buttons and all of that. So you can change it to blue, and the text you need to change it to white, according to what she requires, what she wants from you. And then what else? Yeah, so basically now we have to implement this method here, because now every time the user presses this button, it has actually to go to the next screen, because that's what the question asks you to do. So now we have to go to the next screen. For you to go to the next screen, you have now to implement, you have already implemented the routing. So now we just going to, yeah, so basically we can do this. You come here, you say navigator. Okay, navigator dot push named. You have a context and then you have the route name, right? So we previously did it. So what you can do is simply you can have this, for example, details. Okay, so basically what has to happen here is every time the user clicks on this button, it has to go to the details. So what you could have done is this, but because we have already implemented the route, so you're just gonna call the route manager and say detail screen. Before we do this, so now that we have this, right, every time I click on the submit button, it's actually supposed to go to the next screen, but it's saying could not find the generator for route settings details. So basically the problem is coming from here. So we are missing a couple of elements. So for example, yeah, exactly, we are missing a couple of elements. So inside our material app, we have to determine our route, okay, our initial route. So we say, for example, our initial route is going to be route, so the initial route first is going to be, yeah, we do our route manager. We are going to do the input screen. So then we don't, if we do that, the initial route, then you don't need the home like this anymore. You don't need it, otherwise it's just gonna bring some confusion. But as I said, there is multiple way of doing the same thing. You just have to find which one is much more comfortable with you. So now when it comes to generating the route, we have this method here called onGenerate route. We have to get it inside our route manager. That's why we call route manager like that, and then we say it's going to be this method. But this method, okay, when it comes to the onGenerate route, as I said, we have to go inside our route manager, okay, and then we get the onGenerate route, but we're not gonna call it like this. We just stop there and then we save. We don't need this anymore, just delete it, and there we go, we save. So let's try now. So you see now it's going to the detail screen, but our detail screen is returning a placeholder. So this is a placeholder, so we can actually return, let's say, a scaffold. So now it's white, and so now it's white, and what else do we need? But now, according to the assignment or the test, if you look at the last page, it says create, let me put it for you as well to see. So it says create screen that display the details added by the student from the input screen. The component is we have an app bar with the title of student details. Okay, so that's we can fill right now by just doing our scaffold. So we have our app bar. We just have to copy this because it's a small app. It's not really a big deal. So we come this side here. So now we have this, so we can start our app again. Okay, so we have this. This is our detail screen. But the detail screen, the text has to be different. Just to say student details. Save that. Good. And then the student details is all about so we already have our app bar. Let me try to format it. Wasn't it supposed to? It's cool. After the app bar, we're gonna have a body. So inside the body, we will have. Now we're gonna use the consumer that we will use to update certain detail of the app. So consumer, okay, we have the consumer. We open our angle brackets, we call the student view model. And then the student view model is going to you have our builder, okay, and then the builder is going to return for us, not return, but it's taking a context as an argument, the VM, which is a view model, as an argument, then a child as an argument, and then you open our curly braces. We can style it a little bit with like paddings, but for this you will have to be a bit creative as well. So we create we say we put first our edge insets, edge inset all. We can also give it 16. So we can put a child. So here we are almost done. So I tried to type a little bit quicker this thing. So you have your consumer, and then inside the consumer is going to be like your wrapper. So it's wrapping up all this thing, story. So now for the text, we're gonna have a virtual model, and then we call the method student number. So basically this is going to fetch the actual student number. This one is going to fetch the name, the surname, the email, the course, and then I added a sized box with a height of 10, and then every time you press that, it's going back, just doing navigator.pop. That's what we have here, but according to the test, it has to look blue, so you can also increase the size. So what we can do is, let's go back to the previous screen, and I see as well the submit page that the app bar is not blue. So what we can do is we can just modify the app bar, and we can just say background color. Background color, you say colors dot blue, and you save that, and the text has to be white. I don't know why am I doing this, because I'm assuming everybody at least knows how to do this. So we have style, we call the text style, and then we will say color, and then we say colors dot white, and then once you save it, it should change. There we go. You can also change the color of the arrow to make it white. That depends on you. And then you have this. So basically we need to test if things change. You can put your student number 2025 or whatever there. You can put your name, let's say this is just for testing. Surname, we can say that. The email, we can say and then the course, we can say IT diploma. Once you submit, there we go. So we have our student number, our name, our surname, email address, and course. You can also change, you can change this to something else. You can say why is it not typing? What's going on? Whoa, yo. Let's just say that. Once you submit, it's going to do this. So that means it's working. The state management is operating as it's supposed to. And yeah, so other people can find as well different ways to solve this, but this is the way I think it's this is the easiest way that I can actually think of. And yeah, so I really hope you understood something, and if you have any suggestion, you can let me know in the comment. Thank you for watching, and congratulations for watching this video up to here. So I usually, as you can see, I usually don't do this type of videos, but if you feel like we can make more of this, well, let me know in the comment. And if you do love what you've seen here so far, do not forget to subscribe, to leave a comment, to share, and yeah, I hope I will see you next time. Bye.